Hey everyone, Egman here with another video. Today's video is going to talk about some of the rulings that were just released the other day. A lot of people were really divided on how they resolved or not. So I wanted to just go all through the big ones, just so everyone was clear about how they were ruled and made sure that they're getting the correct rulings. Additionally, I wanted to kind of go through the process of why I think these rulings are correct. A lot of them, I think, like all the fringe ones, I think I sided on the correct ruling that they decided on. But additionally, just because I was correct based on like context clues and stuff doesn't mean that that's always the case. Of course, you know, whoever owns the card game gets to decide at the end, and so sometimes they can conflict with themselves, and you have to deal with it. Additionally, with the translation issues that we've had in the past, sometimes they've been mistranslated, so it would really allude to one thing, but it would mean the other. So let's go into it. So first, let's talk about the Dragon Ball leader. A lot of people are like, "Oh, can I search through my life and deck at the same time, or do I have to choose one?" And the official ruling is that you can look through both. They put like a clause like, make sure to look as quick as possible, though, to not, gain an advantage. But, that's all BS because, anyone's going to do that. And like, even if you didn't, like, yeah. And so the other thing about this is that, I mean, even if you could only choose one area, you'd always choose your deck first. You'd look how many Dragon Balls you can find and be like, okay, there's 2 in my life. Good. Understood. But yeah, and so you're able to look at both. So yeah, people can do that, and they can choose one from each if they want. I don't think that would be the most optimal thing in a lot of situations, but hey, there you go, you can do it. So let's see what else. So that is that, and to move along with the Shenron kind of thing, let me flip. Even though I don't have all 7 Dragon Balls in my warp, in my drop area, no one. So when it says that you can choose one design in your hand with energy costs of equal or less than energy and activate its activate main skill, it does go into the drop area. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't say go into the drop, so do I just show it in my hand and then keep it? And that's not true. So you have to show it, you have to play it, which means putting it on the table and then putting it in the drop area afterwards. So fix on that just to make sure no one is like, oh, it doesn't say to go to drop, it goes to the drop. So there is that. Next up is let's see, what do I want next? The next one is let's go to the Gogeta. So I'm going to use this guy as an example. So this is the starter deck Gogeta. Both these starter deck leaders are like very powerful, but have like really fringe rulings too. So that's really funny. So its activate main is you choose one card in your hand, placed in the drop area. Your opponent can only activate counter skills for the duration of this turn. So funny enough too, because I posed this question a couple days before the ruling. I'm like, hey, by the way, this is how it's ruled, in my opinion. And a lot of people are like, no, you're wrong. And then it turned out to be true. So so the question that a lot of people would get is like, oh, I'm going to. So let's say I play like Brienne and then they Crusher Ball it, right? Cool. If I then activate my ability to discard one card to say that they can't activate counters anymore for duration of the turn, are they allowed to play a Nimbus when I attack? Because they activated the counter before I activated the skill, right? And the big key, so the ruling is yes. So if they Crusher Balled and then I activate their effect, they can't activate counters for the rest of the turn. So that's how that works. But 2, and so why is that the case? A lot of people are arguing like, oh, because the effect wasn't around when you activated the first negate, you discard it or stuff like that. And if you look at the wording, it says for the duration of the turn, and the key word is duration because it means from when you drew your card to begin the turn to when you pass to your opponent. That is the duration of the turn, and so that means that even before this card activated, it counts it. So even if they played, let's say, for argument's sake, like I played this Brienne, they Crusher Ball it, I Bad Ring it. Where's Bad Ring? I Bad Ring it, and then they Bad Ring their own. Cool. They played 2. That's fine. And then I activate the effect. They still can't play anything. even though they activated 2, they can't activate it anymore because they played at least 1. All right, let's look at this movie promo Gogeta for the for kind of like a duration versus remainder debate. So this guy says, choose 1 card in your life, place in your drop area, choose all of your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier, negate their skills for the duration of the turn, and this card gains plus 5k power for duration of the turn. You can only play cards by saying using Union Fusion for the remainder of the turn. So the reason that says remainder is means so like if before the turn you could play a Brienne or something like that, and then you can activate its ability by taking a life, and then after that you can then Union Fusion out this guy. But that's the only way. You can't do the opposite, right? You can't play you can't use its ability and play Brienne, but you could have done it before because it says remainder of the turn, not duration of the turn. And so that's why the 2 of them can get flip-floppy. But if you even look at this card too, like they're stuff on their fault, because it says like choose all your opponent's battle cards and negate their skills for the duration of the turn. They should have put remainder. Right? So I can definitely see why there's some backlash for that, because it's not really it's not 100% consistent. Negating their skill for duration or the remainder of the turn would do the same thing, because you can't retroactively negate their ability. But yeah, and then this gains plus 5k power for duration of the turn. It should say remainder, but whatever. And that is why it is like that. So I understand why there's confusion, just because it is like sort of inconsistent about duration versus remainder. But for this case, it makes a lot of sense to me why it's ruled that way. Lastly, there's like the super duper combo of like saying, oh, if I have where is he? Black Mask Saiyan out, and then also then I play Mecha Frieza, meaning my opponent has to play 2 cards in rest mode. Is that what it says? You look at their hand. Up to 1, yeah. Okay, choose 1 and play in rest mode. Oh, look. Your opponent played a battle card with 15k power or less using a non-keyword skill. Your opponent chooses 2 cards from the hand and places in the drop area. That's what a lot of people are arguing, and it turns out that is not the case, and a lot of people were kind of upset about that, I think. But let me kind of explain why the ruling is that way, and why even though it's not what you wanted, it's consistent to kind of rules. And that's kind of the other thing I wanted to say. Just because a ruling is made in one way doesn't mean it's fair. I think a lot of people kind of see that. And I mean, a lot of these rulings make or break cards, but it's how Bandai wants the game to be, right? So it's not a debate of how it should be. It's how it is and how you want it to be, right? And I mean, even though I think this is the correct way, and I would hate to face against this, I feel like this combo would have been degenerate. It's just because it's what I wanted doesn't mean that it's the right ruling all the time. So it's kind of hard to remove yourself from what you want to play and how it's ruled. But yeah. Anyway, so let's go into so why it's ruled that way. And so the biggest thing for me to think about this way is a couple sets ago we had this Bardock, or not Bardock, this Broly, which is really good, of just saying when you play this card, your opponent chooses one of their battle cards and KOs it. And so the ruling for this is because let's say I only have this Brienne on my opponent's side. Broly can't blow up anything because there's no targets, and you're like, oh, but it says like your opponent chooses one of their cards, and oh, this says this card cannot be chosen by skills of your opponent's cards. You're choosing the card, like your opponent's choosing what cards, so it's not me who's choosing. And I can see that why people would think that, but if you look at it closely, it says choose by the skills of your opponent's cards, and this is a skill. And so since it's your opponent's skill, it's still your opponent that is making the stuff happen, which is why it doesn't affect barrier. However, the same thing applies to this combo. So when your opponent plays a battle card with 15k power using a non-keyword skill, and I think that's the biggest thing, because it just says when your opponent plays a battle card, and this Frieza says your opponent plays plays that card, right? And it's like, oh, they both say have, you know, congruent text of saying play, you know, opponent plays. And I think it's understandable why a lot of people thought this would work. And if this did work, I wouldn't be surprised. But looking at this situation, it is, even though your opponent is playing, it is your skill that is playing the card. And since it's your skill that is playing this Brienne in rest mode, it is not your opponent actually playing it. They physically put the card on the table, but it is you who is playing the card because it is your skill. So that is why that ruling is that way in my opinion, and I think it is the correct ruling in sense of consistency. It is also the ruling I wanted, so I'm biased, but yeah, that is why it is like that, and that's not this. I don't feel like it's Bandai bending the rules to not have a combo exist. I think it is simply how it should be anyways. So those are the big rulings I could think of for the set. A lot of these people were really, you know, on the fence of what the ruling was and stuff like that. So I hope this, and a lot of people probably already know these rulings by now, but I want to make sure it was clear. And also, if people are confused on why it was ruled one way or the other, I kind of wanted to give evidence to why it was ruled that way. And yeah, so if you guys have any more questions, or if I got a ruling wrong, let me know, and I can maybe give you some more clarity or anything in the comments below. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.